The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershber and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Tori, who lives in Tacoma, Washington. Tori asks, demonstrations have erupted over Trump's redistricting push. Texas Republicans are pushing mid-cycle redistricting, while California Democrats are countering with their own map. Do you think gerrymandering should be outlawed? One question. And what might this mean for the future of electoral integrity? Excellent question, Tori.
Yeah. I hope we continue to have electoral integrity. I have my doubts.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the home team. All right, should gerrymandering be outlawed? Yes.
Yeah.
But now here's the question. How do you identify what gerrymandering is?
Yeah.
How do you've got to define the crime. You've got to specifically define the crime as to what the crime is before you can outlaw it.
And California, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, California has a redistricting commission that the California voters voted in, that they actually have to vote out before California can redistrict and gerrymander to counter what Texas is doing. And Texas, by the way, is now suing California over its effort to redistrict and gerrymander. New York also has the same sort of people have to vote. At one point, I think it was John Lewis, the late John Lewis was it Senator John Lewis? He did have,
Congressman,
thank you, who did want to outlaw gerrymandering on the national level, and I believe Republicans voted it down. Yeah, so that, as you say, Mark, what is gerrymandering? And it should be made.
Yeah, you got to define it. You got to start by defining it. But I'm going to take this back a little bit, just a little, to Tori.
Please.
We must first correct the condition that makes the parties believe that gerrymandering is to their benefit. The United States has 435 representatives in the House of Representatives. The British Parliament in the House of Commons has 650. The United States has 5.5 times the population that Great Britain has. 5.5 times the population, and their House of Commons members are larger than our House of Representatives. We have not increased the size of the House of Representatives, and we should. You want to end gerrymandering? We set a limit. You can represent only so many people. That is a district. And separate it out by that. And I think that would correct this gerrymandering for political reasons. So if you said, hey, you're going to represent 200,000 people, no more. Okay, yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch more members of the House of Representatives. Absolutely. Or, whatever the number you come up with. You're going to have more, no doubt. But isn't it about time we did? And isn't that a little bit better representation for the constituents of the people of Congress? Now, I don't think you can do much with the Senate because that goes by the number of states, and that isn't changing anytime soon. But when we're talking about the House of Representatives, that is based on population. And one of the greatest arguments I heard, the biggest argument I heard, it wasn't a great argument, it's the stupidest argument I've ever heard, was we can't make the building big enough. That was the argument. If we increased it to the numbers that they should be, the chambers of the House of Representatives would not be big enough in the Capitol. Then guess what? Build a bigger damn building. I mean, if that's your the reason that you're failing democracy, and if that's your big stumbling block, build another damn building. I mean, it's not that hard. We do it all the time. I mean, come on, people. So my thought, and yeah, this is a mud fight between Texas and California. We need to get rid of the reason gerrymandering seems that these two parties believe that gerrymandering is necessary, because it doesn't only happen in red states. It also happens in blue states. Let's not kid ourselves. So, yeah, let's correct that first. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the worst thing about what's happening in Texas is the fact that Trump told them to do it and they're doing it, right? And they're gonna base it on a census. I think that they're doing it in the middle, like they're doing it in the middle of the 10-year, the decade that gerrymandering started, that was gerrymandered to start with. I'm sorry, I'm not being very articulate here. That Trump doesn't believe, let me start again. Trump doesn't believe in voters. He doesn't believe in voting. He doesn't believe in elections. He believes that he's entitled to these 5 seats in Texas, and he wants to make it so that he gets those 5 seats. This is unseemly at its core. It is wrong. It is anti-democratic. You can name your words. What Governor Newsom is doing in California is very different, I think, in that he's saying, if Texas goes through with this, I'm going to ask the people of California to vote on whether we should redistrict in California and let the people decide. But one way or another, gerrymandering has obviously been around since like 1812 or something like that, right? And I think it started in Massachusetts. The guy's name was Jerry. Was it Elbridge Gerry? Or I think his name was. And it looked like the district looked like a salamander, so that's why they called it mandering. And it's been around for a really long time. It's probably run its course because it's become so crazy undemocratic, right? Like there were, I think it was 36 seats up for grabs. The rest of them were so gerrymandered that they couldn't be won by the other party. In the entire country, 36 seats up for grabs. That's crazy. Every seat in the country should be up. As I mentioned during the Elon Musk Doge thing, when a congressman got up, Republican congressman got up on TV and said, hey, look, Elon Musk's people can do something that we can't do. And that's basically oversight, which is their job, their number one job. And I said at the time, if you don't think that your member of Congress can do that job of oversight, vote them out, no matter who they are. Vote them out. Get a member of Congress in that knows what they're doing. And, Americans have a tendency to hate Congress, but love their congressman or their congresswoman. And it's just, it's just not good for democracy to do business this way. The way that seats should be allocated should be done using algorithms and AI platform to divide up the seats of in a state and create districts that make sense for everybody, right? For everybody, not black districts and white districts, not red and blue. This is just anti-democratic.
Right.
So I mean that's I don't have I have strong feelings about it, but I don't have a great sense of why anybody would defend this, because it is so clearly to me anti-democratic, small d democratic, and anti-republic, if you want to put it that way, and just un-American.
Yeah, and just to bring home the point of this, in 1789 there were 59 members of the House of Representatives. That ballooned out to 435 in 1913. That's the last time it was. And then in 1929, Congress basically had an act that stopped any further expansion. They couldn't make it any larger. So the average number of constituents per congressional district in the 1790s was 35,000. Okay, all right. In 1910, 210,000. It ballooned out from 35 to 210. In 2020, 762,000. Now, if that is not a call for the Congress cannot basically handle that number of constituencies, the number of constituents, I don't know what is. It was not designed to be this. This is not how it was designed. This is almost corporate looking when you kind of look. It almost kind of becomes like a corporate looking kind of thing. And the arguments that they have against this is that, well, first of all, it was capped in 1929. Well, that could be over. We could fix that. It said, the idea that it would change the balance of power in the Congress, as far as Republicans and Democrats. And this group here that did the study basically said that they ran all the simulations, didn't change it by very much at all. It didn't flip anything, that was for sure. But that if they really should go back to maybe not 35,000. I mean, when I think about it, 210,000, okay. That sounds okay. Maybe a little less, maybe 150,000. And you'd have a Congress made up of, say, 650 members of Congress. And as Scott said, you wouldn't be dividing it then by Black districts, Hispanic districts, white districts, Catholic districts, Jewish districts. None of those things would come into play. You divide it up by population. You can have this many constituents and no more. If you go over that, some of those constituents move to a different district. And that's where the lines would start to shift. That's where you'd start shifting these lines, is when districts began to get too large over the limit that they're allowed. And yeah, you'd have to maybe create new districts, another seat. We've seen where they've merged districts because they didn't like somebody. Scott was talking about one in his area. In New York, where they didn't like the guy because he wasn't following the party lines, and they basically wrote off his district. I mean,
Stephen Solars,
yeah. I mean that's crazy. That's not democracy, guys. Sorry, that's not what democracy is supposed to be.
Not the United States, not anymore.
And just for the final point, just for the real quick final point of making the point of this, the House of Commons, 659. Different members of Parliament of the lower house, and they represent on average 100,000 constituents in their constituencies, compared to our 762,000. Now, I'm not saying that the Brits have got it right, but hey, I think there's better representation there than there is here.
So our way of doing business and our way of governing here in the United States is not what it should be and not what it could be by far. There are many better examples. So thank you, Tori, for the question. It certainly gives us much to think about and much to discuss, many ways to improve what is here in the United States so that we could again be the greatest country in the world rather than what we are rapidly becoming, and in many ways have become, which is not the greatest country in the world. So thank you for spending some of your time and some of your day with us here at the Nova Society. If you are not yet subscribed on the platform of your choice, please do so. It certainly helps us to grow our channel and reach more listeners and grow more conversations, perhaps globally. we do hope to see you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, BH Conflict Resolution Services, a full-service dispute resolution firm offering expert, cost-effective mediation services to couples, groups, and businesses. BHCRS can be reached at www.bhcrs.com.